Okay. All right, everyone. Happy Sunday for those in the States. Hope you're having a Memorial Day weekend. Appreciate you guys coming on with us. We got what I think is going to be a really good Zoom today. The one thing that Laurent and Matt we've noticed in the last couple of weeks is we're getting a lot of questions about mobility and strength training, and we're goalie coaches, but we're not strength and conditioning coaches. So we figured let's bring an expert in, and that's exactly what we did. We got DK, the mobility guy. D, thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. So let's kind of want to get right into it. I don't want to waste too much time today. We've got a couple more people coming in. Let's let these guys in. So what we're going to do to start off this week is we're going to do some video, which we did last week. Laurent's got some great video that he's going to go over. DK sent me a clip of him, and I also found a couple more clips of him as well. So we're going to get into that, and then we're going to pass the mic over to DK. I want him to kind of tell us about his history. He played in the NA. We just found out he basically just started playing goalie in high school. Played in the NA, played D3, now playing pro. Have a couple of questions because I saw he plays in Danbury, which I know is a crazy place to play. So I want to definitely pick his brain about that a little bit. But let's go right over to Laurent with some video. And for the video, guys, I really want you guys to participate in that discussion box. We don't want this to be a lecture. This is interactive, so for all of us to get something out of, because we really like hearing from you guys too. So Laurent, I'm going to pass the mic over to you.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have Josh in the call too.
Yeah, we got brick by brick. There we go.
So actually, I'm just going to be talking about exactly what Josh was talking about till last week, which is kind of ironic. I had already a few clips planned out. Can I share my screen now?
You can share your screen if you want. Why don't you unmute Josh too? If he's on, let's. We have another expert in the house. Let's use him today.
There you go.
How we doing, everybody?
There we go.
There you go. All right. So I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah, so these clips are going to be about basically depth management, the same thing that we were talking about with Josh last week. Is it working? It's working. Everything's good?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So the first clip, basically, it's going to be two clips where goaltenders should have been a bit more aggressive, or they were a bit too aggressive. So anyways, let's get right into it. First one was at 108. Find it. There we go. So this one here, goalie's a bit too passive. And I'm trying to make it work pretty much like last time.
There we go.
Okay, 108. Here we go. Let's go again.
Go Wings.
Yeah. Who said go Wings?
Oh, yeah.
I'll go Wings, he said.
Go Wings.
Wings fan, huh? All right. So anyways, we can see that, goaltender right now is not in good position. He's not on angle. He's not necessarily square. But then we keep going. Now he's good. And now the puck is right next to his stick, right? So a poke check would have been very, very effective in this play. This is not working still. Okay, it's working now. Good. Anyway, so that's my comments on the play. I think it was, just a bit too passive. Should have been more aggressive on that play. Let's move right to the next one now. 138. And this is a bit of a different situation. So now what I would like is for everybody to answer if you guys think he was a bit too passive or a bit too aggressive on this play, man.
We've got one chiming in already too aggressive.
You mind playing that back and actually play through the whole clip at full speed so we can watch it?
Yep. One more time.
The consensus with everyone is it's too aggressive. We have Max saying that he wasn't square.
Well, here's what I think, right? When I look at this play, I look at there's a small move that he's going to do that's kind of going to put him in a bad situation. Right now, he's good. I think we just skipped it. But he kind of C-cuts forward just a bit, or stops his momentum going back. Can't see it.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard, though. He's trying to set his feet. He's got to respect that shot. At the same time, you got a guy driving the back door. You got to be able to read that guy driving, see what hand he is. I think he gets caught a little flat-footed. You're right. But it's a 3-on-1 with freaking Mitch Marner and who's the other guy? Is it?
Does it matter?
Yeah.
He's gonna give him the puck.
Does it matter?
Yeah.
His wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's definitely a tough situation for sure.
Yeah, I think he was. Like, he could have been more patient on his edges. I think he was, like you said, was flat-footed, and so he dropped early.
Exactly.
I mean, once he makes that move, you got to understand it's a 2-on-0. So you have to respect the pass, and you got to respect the shot. So I think you're right. He just gets flat-footed, gets stuck. But, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I think we may all get a little starstruck and a little bit nervous in that situation.
Well, let's keep in mind, too, that this clip is called Top 100 NHL Goals of the Season. So I don't think we're going to see many, bad goals here. But anyways, let's move on to the next one. 155 here.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a different one. So, again, same thing.
Was that McDavid again? No, Nugent Hawk. No, it's okay.
Oh, that's ugly.
Where's that beat him?
Pylon.
Thanks for coming out. Ew. Again, though, I mean, there's 2 goals right there that we've already seen that goalies are so passive and letting guys come across their crease. A good active stick eliminates that whole situation there. They're giving them that ice. I mean, yeah, they're good players and they're freaking aggressive and they're good skill set, but at the same time, he cuts across the middle here with defensive pressure, active stick, no opportunity for that backdoor, for that move.
So I don't think we need guys to answer here. It's pretty standard. No, definitely too passive. A good poke check. And, I think it was Mitch that mentioned it last week there, but the poke check is kind of a lost art, right? And it's definitely something that, we got to bring back some kind of way. But, I mean, anyways.
You know what, that comment, how we always, when goalie coaches focus on something, it's always overused or misused. I'd be totally okay with seeing some really misused poke checks.
Oh, for sure.
Some
100%.
poke check fails, those would be enjoyable to kind of see.
Yeah, 100%.
Full out Hasek.
Yeah. And then in this one. And this one's a bit different too. Because he gets beat on the shot. But, I mean, there's 3 guys on.
Is that McDavid again?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, play back one more time.
For sure.
I would say personally, when you have that kind of back pressure, you should allow that to give you confidence to be a little bit more aggressive. Like you said, like he's got three of his own sweaters on one dude. If he makes a pass to this 44 here, and the net's wide open, then tap your stick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Rather give up that one than the one he just gave up.
Yeah.
Imagine that video locker room, though. Well, I mean, next day's practice, coach is breaking that video down. Everybody's getting yelled at.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
3 guys go to one guy and a goalie sitting back on the goal line. Oh, geez.
Flat.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, that was the clips that I wanted to show basically about depth control. It's depth control is not something easy to master, if you like to say it, but it's definitely a big plus because depth control is all about situations, right? You have to be able to read the play. You have to be able to read what's happening. And I think Josh could, because we were talking about that last week again. So I think Josh can also, come in on this. But yeah, so those are the clips that I wanted to show.
Yeah.
I think Mitch had some clips to show as well now.
I do. So I'm going to get to my screen. I've got some clips of DK. He was kind enough to send one of those, send me some. And then I found a couple others. So let me get my screen up. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So I did a little editing on my, I kind of enjoy doing the editing thing with the zooming in and slowing down and replaying. So let's let this first one go. Talk a little bit through it. I like the communication that DK I saw with waving his glove over, letting his D know.
Hold on. So let's preface this. So sorry, I apologize. DK's in the net right now, right?
That is correct.
Yep.
I figured since we have a guest, I didn't want to embarrass him by showing goals. So we're actually.
I appreciate that. There's only a few saves like these out there on the internet, so
we're going to show some saves today. So there's a first for our Zooms. So again, good communication. And that expression is what every goalie wants to see.
Oh.
So I think this is a great clip to talk about that depth control too. If you want
100%.
to replay it back.
Here's some slow-mo. So
we're on a PK right now, right? We got a 5-on-4.
Yeah.
Right. So we have the DK's got to have his head on the swivel and be able to see a lot of different scenarios coming at him. But at the same time, power plays are set up and have structure. So watch as the play develops. Actually,
can we go back to the start?
Yeah, you go maybe a little bit farther. So pretty much when they're cycling up top, right before this play develops. So here.
Okay, this will be full speed.
That's fine.
Next
So
one.
you can see how as the play is developing, he's holding his feet up here. He's cycling up, but he knows, and correct me if I'm wrong, DK, this guy's not a threat. So why really challenge him, right? So he's reading and reacting, but holding his ground. So this is a perfect opportunity to be not so conscious of your depth, but be able to take in information and read and react. Now the play's developing. Now he gains his depth. He's still aware of that backdoor option, then he has a great read and a great save. But he doesn't over-challenge, doesn't over-commit. And for the guys that don't know, DK is a pretty big guy. How big are you?
6'5".
He's a pretty big guy. So the way that he plays could be a little bit more passive and controlled than a more aggressive 5'8" kind of guy like me. So again, everyone has to play differently, but I think this is a great scenario to see to be able to identify his reads. Good read and great save.
What I really like here, DK, is the fact that you're using that overlap. You recognize the lefty shot, so you're taking away all that complete short side. And you know that that's not necessarily good ice, so you can not be as aggressive me at top of the crease, especially being your size. And then what I really like is you'll see coming across, and I slow-moed it twice. And goalie doctor students know, and they've heard Matt and I say it time and time again, eyes, hands, feet. Watch this move by DK as he slides across.
And that was a great rotation.
Coming up, the eyes are going, the glove and the stick follow, and we take that aerial angle away. I mean, that's just a textbook butterfly slide save right there.
One thing, and just to kind of highlight and kind of pump your tires again, I like whenever goalies come across, and I always say for the goalies that have trouble getting across or getting leaky, is to bring your backside with you. Like after you push, you got to snap that push leg back underneath you. So he's loading that right leg push and then snaps it back underneath. So he has a good base and that 5 hole's getting closed. If he needs to reach with that left side, now he has a foundation on the backside to be able to extend. If that push leg doesn't come with you, your shoulders never really get there, your hips never really get there, and that 5 holes never really close. It just exposes so much. So again, really good clip, Mitch, for so many different aspects, and great save.
Okay, let's get into our second and third.
Way back behind the net, bad bounce off the stanchion, loose in front. What a save from Dylan Kelly!
Fayetteville bounce, baby.
Bounce, but throws the puck to the stick to come on top of.
So a couple of things with this clip. Number one, I mean, notice the score is 3-2. It's the third period. So if this is 4-2, I mean, I don't know how late it is into the game, but again, we're going to 2-goal deficit with in the third period. So we're really putting our team on the 8 ball. I believe DK, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you guys win this game.
We did. We went in OT.
Yeah, so this is a huge timely save, and Matt and we talked about this. Matt, we talked about last week making those timely saves. Matt had talked about Marty Brodeur, how in the first period he might give up one, but you knew damn well in the third period he wasn't giving up a goal. And this is a classic example of bad bounce, and DK finds a way to get back in front. Actually gets a glove on that, which is pretty sick.
This is why we battle in practice, goalies. You never know when you got to pull out the bag of tricks in a game.
You never know. And kind of give a little tools of the trade. In warm-ups, if you have the ability, and I'm sure, DK, you probably did this, but take a puck in warm-ups, fire it around the glass, fire from behind the net, up the boards, and then fire a couple pucks from the blue line around to see if there's any crappy or home ice bounces that you should be aware of. You're not going to know always, but it helps a little bit. But great battle.
Thanks.
Okay.
This was a pretty wild. This was actually I think this was Saturday night, and Peoria was the only team left in all of pro hockey that hadn't lost a game yet, and we swept them at home this weekend. We won. I think we beat them like 2-1 or 3-2 Friday night, and then 4-3 in overtime. This game.
No big deal.
Not a big deal. Humble brag.
No big deal.
Weird flex.
All right, let's get to our last clip here, and then we'll turn the
Right
mic
side
over
for
to
back to
DK.
5-on-5 hockey. Tip to the front of the net. Oh, and what a save from Dylan Kemp. The
I love
5-on-5
the
hockey.
slow-mo voice.
Tip to the front of the net. Oh, and what a save from Dylan Kemp.
All right. Do you want to propose this to the kids?
Yeah, let's propose this one out to the kids. Let's watch this one out again. And goalies, what I'd like to hear is some feedback of what did DK do well? What could DK have done better? I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, the puck's out of the net, and that's the end goal, but we're here to learn. So let's get some feedback on what went well, what didn't go so well.
Right side as we're back to 5-on-5 hockey. Tip to the front of the net. Oh, and what a save from Dylan Kemp.
Aggressive hands. I like that. All right, back to start.
Okay. So what do we have for some comments here?
So we got shut down the net behind him with hands and good box control from Max. Matthew said better rebound control. Harris said aggressive hands. Leon said good recovery. Evan said he was less aggressive so he could get to the back door. I think they're all good points. And again, it kind of goes into the discussion with Justin, how everyone interprets things, sees things differently, and we communicate a little bit differently. For me, I was obviously you don't want to give a secondary opportunity that's unearned, and I think we can honestly say that was probably a poor place rebound.
Bad bounce off the stanchion.
It was a bad bounce, but he was able to identify. And sometimes you're going to be in net, and you're going to know when you're going to have a crappy rebound even before it happens, just because the release maybe is a little bit off. Maybe it's a broken play or deflection, and you're already knowing when that puck's coming off you, you're going to have to make that second save quick. So it looks like he identifies that, loads his leg, and then just like Harris said, he attacks. Hand gets blocker, gets right on top of it. His lower half, he's got long, lanky legs anyway. He's going to take care of the lower half. The only thing he really has to worry about is that if that blade goes north, and you can see he's getting his blocker to be able to project and take away that top of the net. And I think that was a great second save.
Guys, anything to add to that? Josh, Laurent, DK?
Yeah, so the hands were excellent, right? Great active hands, shutting down the high angle. The rebound's tough because it's so in tight. You're not always going to be able to place that one where you want it. The one thing I would say, especially for a smaller goalie, maybe a stronger pivot, just so you get skate to post and then you have a bit more anchor. But in that type of play, you got to just get part of yourself in the right spot, and great desperation, good push, and very good active hands to cut down the high net. So,
Laurent, anything?
Yeah, it was definitely tough situation. But I mean, like Josh said, right? It was the first shot, the initial shot was kind of from a close situation, right? So it's tough to control that rebound, but you got to find the way to get to recover to that rebound, and I think he did a great job doing it. So it's a great save. I mean, we have a few answers, right? The initial rebound was great, but second recovery was good. The hands were projected. I would have to agree with that, 100%.
I mean, I think this could be a good discussion point where if you play it back, there could be two schools of thought, right? We're saying I like a goalie to be aggressive and to challenge and attack that shooter. And in different situations, especially with Dylan, you got a big frame, you're a strong skater. Maybe some goalie coaches would have had more of a post load. But either way, it's like, I think in a game, you're going to revert to how you practice. So whatever you feel most comfortable with, you have to be able to understand and see yourself play and then learn from your scenarios and then practice that way. Like for me, I would have loved, and I practiced this a lot when I was playing, situations like this, in tight, where I was going to be aggressive, and I was always taught I had to attack. And then as we all get older and the play changes, more and more techniques are about post play and being controlled. So again, you have to find that happy medium between control and aggression. And each goalie has to play differently depending on your ability to skate, your mentality, the way that you can read a play, and also just your size. I like it though. Great save. Those are fun saves. Those are fun saves. All right. Well, okay. You want to give it to DK to talk about some of the movement stuff and the reason why we have him here?
I think so. I mean, like we said at the beginning, we've had so many questions, and we wanted to bring in an expert. And DK, you've kind of taken Instagram by storm. Your stuff is spot on. So why don't you give us a little background on you, how you got to where you are, in addition to not only your playing, but also the professional side of being a trainer and expert mobility guy, as you call yourself.
Right on. Well, first, thanks for pumping my tires there, guys. I love that. Made me want to play some goalie, though. I don't know about the rest of you. But, yeah, so a little about me. My name is Dylan Kelly from Petoskey, Michigan. Started playing goalie when I was 14, 15 years old, going into my freshman year of high school. I played hockey before, but was a forward, and I always loved goaltending and always made buddies with goalies at tournaments and stuff, and loved the gear like most of us do. So made the switch when I was in high school, and then went on to play my first year junior, my senior year, played in the NA3, worked my way up through the junior ranks, going from the NA3 to the NA. Spent most of my time there with 3 different teams. I had a cup of coffee in the USHL before going to Adrian College to play NCAA D3. There, I studied exercise science and minored in business. Was fortunate enough to be on some really good teams there and make 2 Frozen Four appearances, 2 quarterfinal appearances in my time there. And then luckily after that, signed a contract to go play a few games, finish the year with the Norfolk Admirals in the ECHL. So went there. That was a great time. Signed with Orlando and Fayetteville the following summer. So once started in Orlando, played a preseason game there, and then played my whole first year pro in Fayetteville and got to be a starter there. Had a great time there. Had a call up to Adirondack and the coast for about a month while I was there. And then last year bounced around a little bit between the SP and the Federal Hockey League. But that's kind of a quick rundown of my playing career. As far as DK mobility goes, I've been personal training since my sophomore year of college. So 2015 was when I started personal training a little bit on my own, just training hockey kids that I knew from my area that were younger than me, trying to kind of follow the same path that I did. From there, I obviously took it to college and started studying it in school. So things got even more serious as junior, senior year approached. Didn't do too much with it my first year pro. Just the lifestyle change, learning how to be a pro. I just kind of focused on that my first year, and then got some more experience throughout the summer. And in October, I launched DK Mobility, October of this year, or sorry, 2019 now. So I'm coming up on 1 full year of in business, and yeah, so honestly, quarantine's been a really good time for me, with everything being pushed to online. And you know, this kind of training has really helped elevate my game, and just more like looking past, like something we're going to get into as I get going on the mobility stuff, is it's helped me way more than with hockey. And you know, a lot of you guys look younger, so a lot of you probably really don't care like about, you know, what it's going to do for your body. But like when you're 25 years old trying to play pro hockey for as long as you can, or you know, when you're retired and you're 30, 35, you're going to care how your body feels. So what this has done for my body, just on a day-to-day, has been life-changing for me. And that's why I really wanted to bring it to the goalie world. It wasn't something that was really big in the hockey world. It's baseball players do a lot of it, the kind of mobility training that I teach, functional range conditioning, kin stretch elements, that sort of stuff. It's really big into baseball. Soccer players use it a lot, but for whatever reason, it hasn't really gotten very big in hockey. And when I started doing this, I just saw immediate benefits from it, just in my overall health and movement on the net, around the net. So going from there, I guess a little bit about what I do. So question one is, what is mobility? So a question I get a lot is, do I need mobility or flexibility? What's the difference? And the difference is, flexibility is your ability to move through a range of motion. So take, for example, your leg. You know, you can probably swing your leg pretty high, right? So if, let's say you had a marker and you drew a line on a wall doing a leg swing, and you know, your path was this long. That's your flexibility range of motion. Now we do the same thing, and we actually control our leg through these motions. I'm physically lifting my leg to its highest point and physically moving it back to its highest point. That line's going to be a lot smaller. That's your mobility line. So mobility is the ability to control a range of motion. So that's what I teach. And another main question that I get is, okay, is this goalie specific? And I hate saying yes, but I can't say no, because it is goalie specific. But when I say that, you know, people think that, okay, it's only for goalies, but this is just human body specific. You know, I think the first thing we need to understand is, as Homo sapiens, we were not put on this earth to play hockey goalie. Our body is not designed to do what we do. So for me, from a training standpoint, that's the first question I ask myself and just remind myself is, you know, you as a goalie, you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. So what can I do to make your body move better, so that way you can do what you want to do? So that being said, yes, it's goalie specific, but it's specific to whatever movements you use on a day-to-day. So, you know, if you're a forward, improving your mobility in joint specific areas. So I don't really focus on the body just from a, you know, lower body, upper body. I try to attack a joint. So, you know, one day we're looking strictly at the hip joint, the knee joint, the ankle joint, the tibia, the glenohumeral joint. So by narrowing things down and breaking things down that way and improving range of motion in all these little areas, and from there we can progress in putting it all together and using it in flow, that's going to make you move in whatever movements you use more smoothly, more efficiently. And the saying is, make stuff work well. So I'm trying to give you a bunch of inside your body, you've got all these little moving bits that help you move. I'm trying to give you a bunch of really good little bits that you can move around really well, which will apply to what you do in the net. So I I guess you mentioned, Mitch, mobility and strength training, right? So what's the difference? The answer is nothing. You can do, I supplement mobility training and program it the same way I would. Sorry, that's a clock in my gym here. I use mobility training and would program it the same way I would weight training. So, usually a trainer will start you out at body weight, and then you start doing some Olympic weightlifting, low weight, high rep. And then as you go into a strength phase, you lower the reps and you increase the weight. Mobility is the same way. It's just different types. So a lot of the stuff you see on my social media pages is kind of a mix of all of it. The number one thing I would recommend for you guys is CARs. What a CAR is controlled articular rotation. And what you're doing there is you're moving a specific joint through its full range of motion, but we're doing it under maximum control. So what we're doing when doing CARs is we're improving our current ranges of motion. We are improving longevity and health of the joint, resilience in the tissue. So how your tissue responds to force and variables coming into it. And most importantly, it's your assessment tool. So anyone who wants to buy a program, like anyone who comes to me and is like, hey, I want to start my mobility training, I want one of your programs, what do you recommend? Beginner mobility program, because that is the full CARS routine, head to toe, covers every joint in the body, and it teaches you how to make a daily routine of this CARS routine. And that's your step one, because that's going to tell you what you need to improve on. So, if I'm doing a hip CAR, I know, okay, I'm tight internally, rotating internally. That's where I need to work. That's where I need to improve on. So I can do that by further working on my CARs. And then I would take that information and apply it into other systems that we use within mobility training to increase these ranges of motion, build strength in the muscle. We do a lot of isometric contractions, which are great, for younger kids, because it teaches you how to generate tension through a muscle. In your muscle, you have things called motor units, and you have tons of them. And that's what it is. Like if you make a fist right now and squeeze really, really hard, you've that tension driving through your body. That's you. That's your body. That's your nervous system generating motor neurons. So the more motor neurons we can generate in an area, the more power output we'll have. So isometrics are great for kids because it teaches you how to generate power through your legs before trying to deal with it like an external load. So, there's too many trainers out there who, will just throw a bar on a kid's back and say, here, back squat this. This is what Pavel Datsuk and Hendrik Lundqvist do in the summer. And it's like, you don't even know if these kids can squat. You don't even know if they have the dorsiflexion in their ankle to get into a squat position without ruining their knees. Because let me tell you, like for a squat, you need a lot of dorsiflexion. And if you don't have the dorsiflexion in your ankle, your body has to throw that force somewhere else. So it's going to transfer that to your knees. That's why you see so many people with terrible knees, because they've been squatting all this time thinking they're doing this great stuff for their body, but they don't have any ankle flexion. So all this force is just going right to their knees, and that's why they have no knee. I'm not saying that squatting is bad. I'm saying there's a lot of people out there who will have you do things without truly knowing why they're having you do it, or without any real idea of what it takes for you to do those movements. Like your body isn't designed to do a squat. So I need, for me as a mobility coach, I have to make your body work and have the range of motion in the ankle and the knee and the hip, like in specific to you guys, to go into a butterfly, to slide into your RVH at max speed and, hold force driving into that post. Whereas a lot of weight trainers just kind of throw a bar on you, and that's all you're doing is just training your body repetitive in a wrong way. Doing something over and over, yes, you'll get better at it, but your body will get better at doing it the wrong way. So that's why I use tons of isometrics to start with strength training for kids, with anybody actually. Like it's called Pails and Rails. That's what I use mostly myself on the day-to-day with most of my clients. And that's the kind of stuff that after you build your foundation in the CARS routine and we know what you need to work on, then we can take, okay, we have limited range of motion internally in the left hip and externally in the right hip, and shoulder flexion is worse than shoulder extension, and blah, 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 blah. Then we can take all these things that you're weak at, put them into the strength training programs to help increase the range of motion there, increase the strength there, as well as continue to, what's the word I'm looking for? Build everything else around it. So the things that you're good at or that you have good range of motion in, we want to continue building good tissue in those areas, so that way you continue to have resilience in those ranges of motion. Because the more able our nervous system's able to communicate with our body, the better off, the less chance of injury we have. Because when injury is when the force is higher than our weight bearing capacity. So that's kind of, I guess, I know that's a lot of information, but that's what we're doing when doing mobility training. So
Well,
I don't want to ramble on any too long.
Yeah, that is a lot, and I'm sure some of the terms that you're using, it might be over their head. So, as an older guy, which is what you prefaced, the stuff that you guys can learn now at a younger age has a lasting effect as you get a little bit older. For me, I played with a lot of guys that have bad knees, bad back. They have their issues, they have their chronic pains as they get older because they never really took care of their body. Luckily enough for me, I was exposed to a lot of good mentors and teachers and athletic trainers to build a good solid foundation, a base for me to train off the ice. It was strength, it was mobility, it's all the things that DK's been talking about. So to kind of simplify all this for the kids, let me again reiterate, this is important, right? This is very important for you, for injury prevention, for mobility, to have a better understanding of your body. The more you can understand your body, the more you understand your limits, your capacity. You know what your weaknesses are. You know what you have to focus on in your training. What are a few basic movements or exercises or stretches or some things that these kids could work on at home to help build their base or work on things while they're at home during quarantine?
So number one, I guess the first tip I'll give you is any stretch that you're going to do, if you want it to have or to give you a lasting impact, you need to stretch for longer than 2 minutes. It takes your central nervous system about 2 minutes for, all the cells in whichever area that you're stretching to turn on. So to simplify that, if I'm a cell and I'm in your body, it takes at least 2 minutes for me to wake up and be like, oh, I'm being stretched right now. So we need to hold our stretches, number one, 2 minutes or more. Some things too that you can work on, other things you can work on at home. I'm in my gym right now, so I'll show you some stuff. How about that? Perfect. Quick little lesson here, guys. What I was talking about with the CARS, controlled articular rotation. So it's in a way a fancy word for joint circles, but you're not just doing a joint circle, because it's all about how we do these. Intent is everything. So when we're doing these, we want to go slow and controlled. The slower and more control that we have and do these, the better off we're going to be, the more response we'll get out of that joint. Excuse me. So first one I'll show you is a hip car. So number one thing is we need to radiate. We need to radiate tension through our whole body. And what that is, that's exactly what I showed you earlier. When you're driving tension through making a fist, that's radiation, but we want to do that through the entire body. So we do that by driving tension into our feet, trying to corkscrew our feet, digging them into the ground, and trying to pull the mat apart, the floor apart, squeezing our legs, contracting our quads, squeezing our butt cheeks, driving tension through our fists, through our arms, contracting the core. That's how we generate tension, and that's how we irradiate. We want to irradiate because when we're doing cars, we're trying to focus on one joint. So I'm going to show you a hip car here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to only move and work on my hip mobility, only move from my hip joint. And the reason we irradiate is so that our body stabilizes, so that we're not using anything else around the hip to give us added range of motion. Because your body's smart. If you want to move through something, it will turn other things on to help you do so. But we're trying to improve an area, so we want to turn everything else up. So to do this, you can hold on to something strong. I have my TRX here. You can hold on to the wall, hold on to, you know, a desk or something. A foam roller works too. Whatever you can hold on to and drive tension into. I'm going to drive tension out with my arm. I'm going to begin by lifting knee to chest. And then I'm going to open, not letting this left hip spill open with it. I'm trying to open only from this hip, my right side. From here, I externally rotate, trying to bring ankle high and not letting this knee drop. And now I just work in a circle and draw that circle with that knee. To go back, I reverse, open, try and bring my knee and my ankle to my armpit. Now I'm trying to bring just my knee to my armpit and back around. So a full rep would look like this. We want to make sure we're trapping air in our lower abs, and that's a hip cover. So you can do that on both sides. I recommend starting there for sure. And really making sure that you're going slow and controlled. It's not, number one thing with mobility training, and what I see with most people who first start out is it's not like any other training where, you know, you show up for a training session and you want to be the best guy there, right? You want to do the most reps and you want to go the hardest, you want to win. That's not mobility. So don't try and be a hero and just, oh yeah, I got sick hips, and work through this giant range of motion that really isn't there because you're using all this other stuff. You're not going to get anything out of it. So it's okay to not have range of motion. Like more likely than not, you haven't moved your hip in its full 360 range of motion. So if you don't move through a certain area, you're not going to have control there. You're not going to be able to do it. So that would be one to start with. Another one, a lot of people have bad shoulders nowadays. So same sort of thing. I'm just going to take my arm here again, take a big breath in, trap air in my stomach, drive tension through my whole body. I'm just going to go arm up overhead, rotate palm open, and I'm just drawing a big circle with my arm. Slow and controlled. As you can see, I'm only moving from this joint. Nothing else in my body is moving. I'm not arching at the back to get extra flexion. As I come open, you're not seeing my chest open up. Everything's straight. I'm moving only from that shoulder joint. And that's what we want. And we want to move through this at about 10 to 30% of our max effort. So if you were to drive as much tension through your arm as possible, we want to go at about 10 to 30% of that. So we're just moving a little bit slower than if, you know, imagining gravity and the air was a little bit denser than what it is. But I would say start with that. There's tons of stuff on my social media pages. DK, the mobility guy, on Instagram, DK Mobility on Facebook, my YouTube channel, DK the Mobility Guy. And I have a weekly hip class that's hip mobility. I do that every Monday night. Then, like I said, I've got my beginner mobility program, which will give you the entire CARS routine. I just showed you two of them right there. But it has, like, the whole routine is from the head all the way down to the toes. So definitely check those things out for anything more. And don't hesitate to DM me either. You know, if you don't want to speak up on a Zoom call, that's fine. Just DM me and I'll be happy to help you.
Well, we'll definitely get everybody your contact information for Instagram, Facebook, and everything else. And obviously, we appreciate you being a nice added benefit and a resource. I mean, just as, again, to summarize, it looks like it's very deliberate, very focused, and very purposeful in all your movements. And, you know, for anybody that doesn't ever have experience with this, this is not the end all be all, right? This is a nice complement to your strength conditioning training, right? You have to have strength and you have to have mobility. We want to be Gumby, right? We want to be able to have full range of motion and movement, but we have to have strength. And just like DK said, those couple exercises that he showed, and obviously there'll be more on his Instagram page, go through, and you might not be as flexible as you think if you're doing it correctly. And you start seeing places where you can provide opportunity for improvement. And again, just like any other training or focused type of movements, you can see where your weaknesses are, and that's where you can really identify rooms for improvement. Again, you know, we all want to be NHL stars and want to be the greatest thing ever, but the only way to get there is improving each day by 1% at a time. So if you can find small incremental pieces of your game to improve, which movement, mobility, maybe the one piece that you're missing or lacking, you know, it's going to help you get there. So please use him as a resource. Check out his stuff. I mean, we had Dax on a few weeks ago, and he's phenomenal too. So we've been able to get a lot of guys on this call and Zoom call for your goalies to help hopefully utilize as resources. What do you think, Mitch?
I agree 100%. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do this whole time. When Laurent and I started the Sunday, Matt, what you've been doing on Tuesdays is we want to keep everyone engaged and give them information. I know, and one of the problems is there's so much information out there. So if we can bring on some good guests who can at least narrow that funnel down, that's a help. And then the other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to help these guys out. We're trying to help DK. We're trying to help Dex. And, you know, if you're interested in becoming one of his clients, reach out to him. I mean, that's how DK and I started. We just started talking. That's the beautiful thing about social media is we started chatting all of a sudden. Now, you know, he's in on a Zoom with us, and same thing with Laurent and with Josh. Laurent, did you have any questions for DK? I know we talked quite a bit, and I know there are a couple topics you wanted to specifically bring up.
Yeah, I did have a question actually. I find well, actually, we were talking about strength conditioning and weight training, but I find there's been a lot of controversy around weight training and basically body weight training, right? And I think that it's very appropriate right now to talk about body weight training, right? And
Yep.
really like what's very beneficial in body weight training. And I think that you would be, you know, the greatest guy in this call to explain that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're 100% right. It is quite the controversy. And I mean, I think there's a lot of good points to be made for both. I mean, you see Bobrovsky, you know, said that his last year in Columbus, a bunch of his success came from losing like 14 pounds of muscle, I think, in the off season. And I know I've knocked on strength training a little bit, and I don't want you guys to leave here thinking I need to only do mobility. DK said strength training is garbage and I should never touch another weight. Because that's like, it's all important. Like, you need to be a well-rounded athlete, and I'm hoping that most of you guys do something other than just play hockey. It's super important to play other sports, and it will help you as a goaltender, and just as an all-around athlete. It's muscle memory. It's working on skill development, being able to pick up a new task. Like, I can't stress enough how important I think personally being a multi-sport athlete is. So I would say do it as long as you can. I was fortunate enough to play 4 sports in college, 3 in high school. So I 100 with please play other sports. Body weight stuff. I personally love body weight stuff. I think the one really big negative with strength training is nowadays there's too many people who force it on athletes or kids too soon. Like they'll go into a gym. Like I've gone into a gym, I don't know how many times lately. It's been a while, but
Not lately.
you'll see like a 13-year-old kid weightlifting. And I'm like, what? This kid hardly has like developed bones yet. What's he doing throwing weight, trying to power clean? Like I don't think there's a need for it. Not at that age. I maybe like if you're playing football and you're going into 8th grade or 7th grade, then I guess I can see where you would start implementing weight training, or else you could get hurt. But I think body weight stuff, being able to control your body is huge. Like especially as goaltenders, so much of what we do in the net to be efficient at it is body control, and body weight movements teach you that, and it teaches you how to use athleticism. And they're very versatile, right? You can do body weight stuff anywhere. You can get really creative with it, whether it's adding vertical movements, lateral movements, making movements more dynamic. Like, a burpee's a dynamic movement. And especially right now with gyms being closed, body weight is by far the best way to, get a good workout in. I love HIIT training, high intensity interval training. It's great for just improving muscular endurance, especially the younger kids. You will get muscular strength out of body weight stuff too. If you're an older athlete, it's probably more muscular endurance based, more so than actually gaining strength. But for the younger population, 100% you'll get the strength gains and the endurance gain from body weight. And it just, again, body weight stuff, it's movement. It's all movement, but we need to be able to control our own body before we start adding external forces to it.
For sure. And it's also, it's a little bit of a give and take too, whenever you're going and working out. I remember me last year, junior, going into freshman year, you're making the adjustment to an NCAA athlete. You get a workout book and you're like, man, I got to be 100% jacked to be able to compete at this level. And I remember going and working my butt off on the off season on just strength. And then we get back on the ice and I'm slow, I'm bulky, and I can't move. Right. So I'm really stupidly strong. I'm doing great in the off ice testing before we get on the ice. And then my ability to actually do my job has fallen to kaput. So it's a balance, right? It's always about balance. Balance with your mobility, balance with your strength, balance with the time that you spend sleeping, doing work. That just comes into everything with life. So the body weight stuff, excellent. I love that stuff. The weight training things, making sure that when you're doing it, form is important. Making sure you're doing the right weight, and you also have the right purpose, right? You're not just in there just to pick things up and put it back down. You're doing things with a purpose. Just like DK showed his exercise, it was very deliberate, it was very focused, and it was very purposeful. The same thing should be going on the way whenever you're going for the weight training and the body weight training. So why don't we pass the mic over to Josh. Josh, you have any questions for DK here?
I'm going to add one more thing on that before you go on. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to say, if you are someone who, you're thinking, well, I can do 500 bodyweight squats, no problem. Like I need external load. I'm ready for some weight on my back. Something to remember is if you want to add difficulty or force, make things slower. So instead of just squatting down on like a one tempo, maybe you do a 6-second count on the way down or an 8-second count, and you add that kind of force. You're adding, it's almost like it's almost an isometric force without, you're increasing the difficulty and the drive that it requires from your legs without adding extra weight. So you're still working on improving your mobility and stability in your current ranges as well.
Yeah, change the tempo. If you can do 10 push-ups and feel comfortable, slow down the push up, and you're going to be gassed after a few, right? So it's just different tempos that you're working at. Yeah, Josh, what's your question?
So I would have more for DK privately too. Just want to talk about your routines and everything. But one thing I want to ask is, do you see any workouts that are constantly being done that are not good at all for goalies to perform at any age? Like I see all the time, you said a lot of high intensity workouts with younger kids. Is there anything in particular that kids should be avoiding? Like, for instance, the RVH in practice, they say to limit your RVHs, especially at a young age. Anything along those lines?
Yeah, I would say number one thing is like just weightlifting stuff. Like I don't think, again, unless you're playing like football or like a really heavy contact sport in like 8th grade or whatever, I don't see a need for a kid to try and be weightlifting, especially as goalies. Like we probably carry, I don't know, I would say my gear being in like all senior size stuff, right? It's probably, I don't know what, maybe 50 extra pounds. Would you say 50 to 75 pounds ish? So like
every time I fly, I always have to pay just a little bit extra, bring my goalie equipment. So I know it's just a bit above 50 pounds.
Yeah. So like, I don't need to be, there's no reason for you as a, 15, 16-year-old kid to be, trying to power clean 225 pounds or whatever. But I would say weightlifting, and I think looking at stability before speed. I think too often, like we rush into, especially like with just youth camps and stuff, it's easy to just do like relay race stuff. And I will say it's important to train how you need to be in the net. Like you need to do explosive, fast, quick stuff. Like I'm not saying avoid doing, skater hops and stuff like that. But I do think there needs to be more of an emphasis on let's build a stability in that actual movement before we actually add the explosiveness to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're
running.
And just stretch longer. Like most, like, the 20, 30 second long stretches, you'll feel something for, the next hour maybe, but it's not, if you want something that's going to benefit you long term more than just what you're doing next, it needs to be 2 minutes or longer.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's get to some questions. I mean, last week I think Matt, Laurent, Josh, I think we had probably 8 to 10 questions. This week we only have a couple. So guys, please chime on in if you have questions. First question we have for DK is from Max. To really see improvement in your game and movements on the ice, how long should you work on mobility each day?
Honestly, the rule of thumb is do it as much as you can. Like the cars routine in the program, I have it programmed because that's how people like people want you to tell them I need to do this many sets and this many numbers. But if I was just going to work with you one-on-one and you didn't need a specific, I would say do it as much as you can. Like whatever you have time for that day, like do it. So, I try to stress to people to do it as a morning routine. So like for me, every morning I get up and do that cars routine or as much of it as I can. If I don't have time to do it all day, to get the whole routine in, then I do as much of it as I can, because building just a consistent habit is going to get more. It's going to give you more feedback. We want to build a habit. I want to build a daily habit because that's how our body's going to get the most feedback moving forward to actually see improvements in our mobility rather than getting like really gung-ho on it for a week and kind of falling off the table for a week, if that makes sense.
Yep. All right, next question from Simon. What is the best time of day to work on mobility?
Anytime. It's always a good time. But yeah, so for me personally, I like to get up and move first thing in the morning. I keep going back to it, but that cars routine, I use that to warm up, all of my joints after sleeping for 8 hours. So I try to get up and have that be the first thing I do in the morning to wake up those joints and prepare my body for the day. But so I would always say before and after any heavy, before and after games, practices, workouts, always do a warm up. If you have time to do, a cool down stretch afterwards, strongly recommend that too. if you can get, again, if you can do that like cars routine before bed, even better. But yeah, first thing in the morning, before bed, before and after exercise, and any time you're just sitting around.
Okay. Let's see. We got another question here. Is it smart to do a long stretch when you wake up?
Yes and no. So long stretch is fine, but high intensity stretch is not fine. So what I mean by that is, you know, if I can either drive a little bit amount of, you know, small amount of tension in my hand, or I can ramp it up to 100%. Like squeeze really hard to the point where I'm like shaking. We don't want to do that first thing in the morning because our body hasn't moved in 8 hours. So first thing in the morning, you want to do low intensity cars, but really focus on having control in that low intensity. Same thing with, you know, as a warm up, low intensity, nothing too strong. And then if we're doing it for a workout, then we can ramp up our intensity to get more of a reaction out of that joint, that muscle.
Okay. And our last question, unless someone chimes in right after this, but I recently started doing yoga. What does it really improve on?
It's funny. This seminar I just took actually bashed yoga pretty hard. Yoga improves balance. Like I love yoga too. Like I'm not going to sit here and say yoga is bad for you, because I think it does really help with balance. You know, I think it's great I think yoga does a great job of teaching you how to listen to your body, which is just a huge part of mobility, is being able to listen to your body and understand what it's trying to tell you. So I think yoga is great for that, just that mind-body connection. There's, you know, meditative elements in yoga too, which are great for mental health as well. But the one thing I will say about yoga is you don't hold those stretches or poses for very long. So at least, you know, in our world, you know, I will never have to, you know, block somebody coming at me in my warrior one. You know, like if I'm in this pose and someone goes to run into me, I'm going down. Like so that's not going to help me. You know, in the real world, I think it's great for balance, but you're not actually building any resilience or power control. Like you're not generating any control in that pose. Does that make sense? So with, you know, mobility training, what we're trying to do is build more control in these ranges of motion, more resilience. That way, if I am, you know, caught up here reaching for a puck and someone runs into me, I have the neurological control. I have the muscle activation. My body's been in this position under isometric force before. So it knows how to handle that. It knows how to handle that variable coming into my body. Whereas if I've never been here before or here, and now I get ran into and I have to try and contract my arm to fight against something, that's if my body's never been there and it's overextended, that's when injury happens.
Matt, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, just kind of a more broader picture. For you as a trainer and you as a goalie, is there a difference between your mentality in season versus out of season? So like obviously right now we're outside of the rink, but you know, mid-season form, are you doing something differently for your routine, for your off ice than you would be doing during the off season?
Yeah. Honestly, it's pretty much the same way you would approach like a normal weight training regimen. In season, I'm upping my cars, my controlled articular rotations. I'm doing those a lot more, and I'm doing those more at, you know, lower intensities. So I'm mainly sticking around like maybe 30% in season, whereas, you know, in the summertime when that's like the heavy training period, I'm going to be doing, you know, more higher intensity cars. My pails and rails, my strength building exercises in season are also, I'm going to do them at lighter loads. So maybe I'm only working up to, you know, 50, 60, maybe 70%, you know, contraction, or maybe I'm working up to, you know, I'm only doing one set up to my max capacity, rather than in the summer, I'm going to load heavier, more intense pails and rails. Because that's when I'm really trying to improve You know, what we're trying to do when we're improving mobility is we're trying to create more space. So more space in an area. So in the off season, that's when I'm really going to try and focus on creating more space, creating more room. And during season, I'm doing the things at lighter intensities, higher repetitions, just trying to maintain that space throughout the course of the season.
Maintenance versus growth.
Correct. Yep, exactly.
I like it. Anybody else have any other questions? Mitch, Laurent?
Yes.
Yeah, I would have a question. We hear also about dynamic and static stretches, right? And from what I can hear, dynamic would be more of a mobility training. So dynamic stretches would be more like mobility training, and static stretches would be like, you know, the stuff you were talking about, like stretches you hold for 2 minutes instead of 30 seconds.
Yep,
Right.
correct. So if we're talking dynamic, so yeah, I would say, your dynamic stretches are probably something you'd use more before. Like I would use, you know, if I were to create you a warm up right now, I'd say do some cars. And then you can get into the dynamic stuff that actually gets the body moving, you know, high knees, stuff like that. And then you would want to use the static stretching, which is isometric stretching. Those are the stretches that you're going to want to hold for longer periods of time, like 2 minutes and such like that.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, real quick, Josh, any closing comments today?
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted there. Sorry, I'm a bit out of it today. It's been a long day.
All good.
Memorial Day weekend. It's okay.
Yeah, I can't really think right now. Sorry about that.
Matt Tendler?
I mean, the big thing for me is just, again, you know, be hungry for knowledge. We have DK here. I think he's been a wealth of knowledge. And if you get bored, you need some more information, check out his sites, Instagram, Facebook. You know, like you said, reach out to him. He's going to be responsive. So use that. And again, just to kind of summarize, you know, we want to kind of give you as much resources as you can, exposure to as much information as you can. So the more educated you are, the better tools that you have in the toolbox to use when you need them. And then you're kind of the carpenter to put everything together. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of it today. I know, DK, you know, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to kind of give us your knowledge and your information. And obviously, Josh, thanks for jumping on. So
no worries.
And the rest of the guys, you stay healthy. You know, make sure you guys are grateful to have the opportunity to be with your family this weekend, hopefully too. So thanks for joining me. I always have a pleasure. It's always fun having you guys on the call.
Matt, thank you. And just show it a small hockey world it is. We've got, a couple of degrees of Matt Tendler today. Matt actually coached against DK when he was coaching for Newman. And it turned out that he and Josh played against each other back in midgets and possibly juniors?
Yeah, probably even like, were you with the Flyers back your whole career?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was with the Royals. We probably crossed paths in the Atlantic. And
then you were at Brockport, right?
Yeah, it was at Brock. We played at Castleton. I think we played each other. You guys smoked us pretty good.
Yeah, James Cody and Ian Finnerty on your team.
Cody is a beast, man.
He's a manimal.
Yes.
He's a manimal.
And Finner's a great guy.
Yeah. Great guy. That's small world. Yeah, I played juniors with those guys, and they wanted me to go to Brockport, but I didn't want to leave Philadelphia area because, you know, I figured I was going to coach. I wanted to be somewhere close to where I was going to be able to play. So small world. And
that's crazy.
DK, I got to see him warm up, and that first comment was like, "This guy's a big guy." Holy. Well, yeah, he stepped in. He played. That was a good game. Adrian, that year, you guys were loaded. You guys were really, really good. Newman was a solid team. We were also very competitive. It was a good battle. And DK came off the bench in relief in the third and made a couple big saves for the boys. So it's a small world.
It's crazy.
Laurent, any closing comments for you?
Well, we're going to keep this going for, I think a few weeks, and maybe
100%.
We might even keep this going afterwards, right after this whole quarantine thing is over. But no, we have a couple of things going on too. And actually, I started doing video synthetic ice sessions as well. So if ever you do have synthetic ice at home, or you just want to train, on feet and do some goalie movements, well, hit me up. We'll set it up, and it would be my pleasure to have a fun hour with you. So, let me know. And for sure, it's always fun, guys. Always fun.
Definitely a good time. This week with Goalie Doctor, Tuesday, we've got a Zoom coming up. We've got AHL ref and Goalie Doctor coach Mason Riley. We're going to break down some NHL video clips from last year's Stanley Cup playoffs. And I'm sure Mason's got a few funny ref stories to tell as well. I also have a live skate I have a live Zoom vision training on Tuesday as well. And then Wednesday, we're doing a live virtual skate. And then next Sunday, we're back here again at 7:30. Our guest to be determined. So in the meantime, I want to thank DK. Really appreciate you coming out. Real wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much. Everyone just keep staying safe. Keep doing what you're doing. Just make sure you're taking advantage of the time you have. Make sure you're all in school. Please keep doing your schoolwork. Then get your workouts in. And if any of us, Laurent, Josh, Matt, DK can be of assistance, we're here to help you. So thank you very much. And we'll see you out throughout the week. Take care, everyone. Peace.
DK, thanks again, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
Guys.
Thanks, DK.